Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you for joining us today. I'd like to seek the blessings for Radha, Krishna and Balaram, Gaunitai, so that we can continue with the overview of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's only by the grace of Srila Prabhupada and by Guru Maharaj that we are able to do some small service to please the Lordships. And I'd like to seek the good wishes of the present Vaishnavas so that we can dive into this nectar. So this is verse number 34 of the 79th chapter. Yo anusmareta ramasya karmani adbhuta karmana sayan patar anantasya Vishnu sa dahito bhavat. All the activities of the unlimited Lord Balaram are amazing. Anyone who regularly remembers them at dawn and dusk will become very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Vishnu. So, interesting. Interesting how Prabhupada uses the phrase Supreme Personality of Godhead interchangeably between Krishna, or even Balaram, even Vishnu. Of course, Balaram is actually the source of Vishnu. So it's quite interesting how this verse is constructed. Okay. So the chapter is entitled Lord Balaram Goes on Pilgrimage, and it describes how he satisfies the Brahmins by killing Balvala, and he bathed at various holy pilgrimage sites, and he attempted to dissuade Bhishma and Duryodhana from fighting. So first is when the Brahmins ask him to do some seva for them by killing Balvala, who is causing some grief for the sages. At the sacrificial arena of the sages at Naimisharanya forest, a harsh wind began to blow on the new moon day, spreading the obnoxious smell of pus and obscuring everything with dust. The demon Balvala then appeared there with a trident in his hands, his massive body pitch black and his face very frightening. Upon seeing him, Lord Balaram thought of his club, which tears to pieces his enemies' armies, and his plough weapon, which punishes the demons. Thus summoned, the two weapons appeared before him at once. Lord Baladev caught the demon with his plough and then struck him with a ferocious blow on the head with the club, killing him. The sages chanted Lord Baladev's glories and presented him with a Vaijayanti garland of unfaded lotuses, in which resides the goddess of fortune. And they also gave him a set of divine garments and jewelry. So this is the interaction between Balaram and the demon, and Balaram and the Brahmins. So this is Balvala getting a good thumping from Baladev. Interesting how that contrasts with the killing of Ramahashana, whom Balaram simply picked up a blade of grass, kusha grass. But with Balavala, he used both his club and his plough to destroy him. So, interesting contrast between the two. And here are sages celebrating the defeat of this crazy demon who was disturbing their sacrificial service to the Lord. So then, Balaram begins his pilgrimage, given leave by the sages. So he asked their permission to go. Of course, they advised him to go as well. The Lord went with a contingent of Brahmins to the Kaushika river where he bathed. And then there's a whole big list. From there, he went to the lake from which flows the river Saryu.
Just to let you know, I'm not going to be able to make it today.
He followed the course of the Saryu until he came to Prayag, where he bathed. So these are all the different holy places that the Lord visited. Next, he went to the ashram of Pulaha Rishi. He bathed in the Gomati, Gandaki, Pasha rivers and immersed himself in the Shona. He went to Gaya, where he worshipped his forefathers. So this is a phenomenal example. Even the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Balarama, performed the Pindan ceremony for his forefathers. So who are we not to do it? And to the mouth of the Ganga, where he performed purifying ablutions. At Mount Mahendra, he saw Parshuram and offered him praise. So Parshuram was there at the time, before the time of Ram, and during his interaction with Ram, he gave up his powers, surrendered those powers, but he's still living. Then he bathed in the 7 branches of the Godavari river, and also in the rivers Vena, Pampa, Bhimarati. Then Lord Balarama met Lord Skanda and visited Sri Shaila, the abode of Lord Girisha. In the provinces known as Dravida Desh, so South Bharat, the Lord saw the sacred Venkat Hill, as well as the cities of Kamakoshni and Kanchi. So that must be Kanchi Punam. The exalted Kaveri river, so he had darshan of that. The most holy Sri Ranga, where Lord Krishna has manifested himself. From there, he went to Rishabh mountain, where Lord Krishna also lives. Then he came to Shetubandha, Rameshwar, where the grievous sins are destroyed. There at Shetubandha, he gave Brahmins 10,000 cows in charity. So one of the purposes of his going on pilgrimage was to get rid of the sin of killing Ramahanshana. Of course, the Lord has no sin to get rid of. He's the Supreme Lord. He's the source of everything. So, but as an example to others, he performed this yagya, this traveling to the holy places. And giving of Gomata is considered to be a very, very pious activity, which destroys many sins. I remember one of our godbrothers one time accidentally in South Africa killed a Gomata. Accidentally, he drove into her. And Guru Maharaj said to him that in order to get rid of the sin of doing that, you have to donate a gold Gomata, even a small one, to the Brahmins in Haridwar, which I think he did. So Gomata is very, very important. Even the Lord donates Gomata. He then visited Kirtamala and Tamraparni rivers and the Malaya mountains. In the Malaya range, Lord Balarama found Agastya Rishi sitting in meditation. After bowing down to the Lord, to the sage, the Lord offered him prayers. Then he proceeded to Kanyakumari, where he saw Goddess Durga. He went to Falguna Tirtha and bathed in the sacred Pancha Apsara lake, where Lord Vishnu had directly manifested himself, and he gave away 10,000 cows. There he traveled through the kingdom of Kerala and Trigarta, where he visited Shiva's sacred city of Gokarna, where Lord Shiva manifests himself. After also visiting Goddess Parvati, who dwells on an island, he went to the district of Suparnaka and bathed in the Tapi, Payoshni, and Nirvindya. He next entered the Dandaka forest and went to the river Reva, along which the city of Mahispati is found. There he bathed at Manu Tirtha and he finally returned to Prabhash. So Prabhash is in near Dwarka, Gujarat. So this is his holy visit. It was obviously amazing visit. 12 months he spent traveling to the holy places. Baladev then tries to stop Bhim and Duryodhana fight. So one of the reasons he went on pilgrimage was because he wanted to avoid the politics of the difference of opinion between the Kauravas and the Pandavas, because he was favorable to both. Perhaps a little bit more inclined towards the Kauravas, but he knew Krishna was very inclined towards the Pandavas. So he wanted to avoid any conflict, especially with Krishna. When he heard from some Brahmins news of the battle between the Kurus and the Pandavas, the Lord went to Kurukshetra to try to stop the duel between Bhim and Duryodhana. So, up to now, he had not been involved in the war at all. As mentioned, he wanted to stay out of the politics. But now he wanted to influence the outcome of the battle, the war. And Krishna stopped him. Who are you? Where have you been for the last 12 months? Yes, Dauji, but you cannot now come and influence the end. Where were you when Duryodhana was insulting Draupadi? Where were you when Karna was insulting Draupadi? Now is payback time. They have to pay the price for all those insults. So he could not dissuade them from fighting. So deep was their enmity. So of course, Bhim had made many vows to break the ties of Duryodhana because he wanted Draupadi to sit on those ties. So Bhim made that vow, and that vow won't go unfulfilled. Understanding that the fight was the arrangement of fate, Lord Baladev left the battlefield and he returned to Dwarka. This was, of course, one of the most fierce battles of the Mahabharata. Two great warriors, Bhim and Duryodhana. Duryodhana was trained by Balarama. So this was a formidable contest, which ultimately saw Duryodhana defeated by Bhim. Bhim, of course, they were fighting with the mace. And with the mace, the rule of the mace fight is that you don't hit under the belt, under the waist. But what to do? Duryodhana had insulted Draupadi, and Bhim had vowed to shatter his ties. That's exactly what he did. So although it was against the rules of the mace fight, Krishna encouraged him to fight in this way, to defeat Duryodhana. Sometime later, Balaram again went to Naimisharanya forest, where the sages performed a number of fire sacrifices on his behalf. Lord Balaram reciprocated by granting the sages transcendental knowledge and revealed to them his eternal identity, where they could see the whole universe within him and also him pervading everything. All the activities of the unlimited Lord Balaram are amazing. Anyone who regularly remembers them at dawn and dusk will become very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Vishnu. Interesting how he doesn't say Sri Krishna. These terms are used interchangeably. So sometimes the name of Krishna comes, sometimes the name of Vishnu comes. But ultimately, Lord Brahma has explained to us that Vishnu is an incarnation of Krishna, and Krishna is Swayam Bhagwan. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Krishna's to Swayam Bhagwan is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom all the expansions come. So it's interesting how Sukadeva Goswami refers to Vishnu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how Balarama, by remembering the activities of Lord Balaram in the morning and in the evening, we will be able to please Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these terms are used interchangeably. The names are used interchangeably somewhat. So that's the end of this chapter. This is just, it's not quite the pilgrimage play. I mean, I just saw this and I thought, interesting, let me just put it out there. But it's not quite, I don't think it's quite the route that he took for pilgrimage. Can't actually find that. But this is quite interesting. A little timeline. I don't know how accurate it is. I found it on the internet, but this is when Balaram starts his pilgrimage, 1st of November. I presume that's 3067 before Christ BC. And then this is when the war starts, the 25th of November. I thought his pilgrimage lasted a year, but anyway, maybe not. So the war starts here, and this is the 14th night of the war. When Dronacharya was destroyed, Bhishma was shot by the arrows by Arjuna at this point. And the war ended on the 12th of December. Interesting. As I say, I don't know how accurate this is, but it's an interesting timeline.
Prabhuji?
Yes, Nariman.
Yes. How soon after the war ended, Mahabharata war, that Bhishma Dev gave up his body? That was in January, isn't it? January 14th.
You mean when he left his body? No, I think it was years after. Because remember, maybe not actually. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because after the war ended, then they all went to see Bhishma Dev. The war lasted for 18 days, isn't it?
Yes.
So between that time and everybody going to see Bhishma Dev on the battlefield, and where he sort of preached to Yudhishthira about the running of the kingdom, I don't know how much was the time interval there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought he was still around for some time. Yeah.
Yeah, he must have been alive because Yudhishthira gained the kingdom, but he was sort of lamenting, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Krishna says that let's go and see Bhishma Dev.
That's correct. Yeah,
I don't know.
I thought he lived for years after, but I mean,
really?
not lived.
After the war?
I think so. And then he left for the spiritual world some years afterwards, I think. But we'll find out if we can.
Please. Yes,
yeah,
Prabhuji.
we can. Interesting question.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. No, thank you. Anybody else? Anything else? Surinder, anything you'd like to share?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat everybody, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Sri Nityananda Chandram Patita Sharanadam Gauradam Tam Bhajeham. Yes, Prabhu, very interesting pastimes of Lord Balarama. And Lord Balarama, he is Nityananda Prabhu in Gaura Lila. Yeah, so while he was doing the pilgrimage tours, Lord Balaram, then he took bath in many rivers. So some of the names of the rivers I remember, he took a bath in Prayag, at Prayag, and then also at Godavari.
That's right.
And Kaveri, etc. So there's some verse in Prem Dham Deva Stotram with reference with these rivers. So one of the rivers is Godavari. So it is like that. Godavarya Vamatira Ramananda Sambadam Jnana Karma Mukta Marma Raga Bhakti Sampadam Parakiya Kanta Krishna Bhava Sevana Kadam Premadham Devam Evanom Gaura Sundaram. So this one about the great conversation between Ramananda Roy and Guranga Mahaprabhu, which is known as Ramananda Samvad. It took place at the bank of River Godavari. And there Ramananda Roy, he explains the concept of Krishna consciousness, and Guranga Mahaprabhu told him to go on a higher level, higher and higher. So then initially Ramananda Roy explained about the Varnashrama Dharma, Varnas and Ashramas, and Guranga Mahaprabhu, he said, go higher. Yeah, exactly like that. Therefore, on higher Krishna consciousness practices, the lower levels are transcended. And therefore it mentions about Jnana Karma Mukta Marma Raga Bhakti Sampadam. So this Krishna consciousness should be free from karma and jnana, that is free from the path of exploitation, which is also known as the path of sense gratification, and free from path of jnana means free from the path of Mayavada concepts, like that. And ultimately, we have this devotional practices with Vidhi Marg, means following rules and regulations, and with awe and reverence. But on a higher level, Guranga Mahaprabhu, Ramananda Rai explained that on a higher level it comes to Raga Marg, or spontaneous loving devotional service, from which we are very, very far away. For us, we may try to practice some sadhana bhakti, but the Raga Marg is a very high concept, and but it is worshipable for us. We worship the Raga Marg, and ultimately Ramananda Roy explains Madhura Ras, and in Madhura Ras the highest is Parakya Ras. So Parakya Ras is worshipable. From our position, we worship Parakya Ras and the pastimes of Radha Krishna and the gopis and the gopas, etc. And but we are very, very far away, fallen conditioned souls. So we try to be cautiously, and with the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu and Guranga Mahaprabhu, we can have a little glimpse. So that was Godavari. And then the Prayag is, there are two verses related with Prayag. One is Sri Prayaga Dhama Rupa Raga Bhakti Sancharam Sri Sanatanadi Kashi Bhakti Shikshanadaram Vaishnava Nurodha Veda Nirvisesa Panjaram Premadham Devam Evanomi Gaura Sundaram. So in this verse it explains that at Prayag, Guranga Mahaprabhu taught Rupa Goswami about bhakti, and at Kashi he taught Sanatan Goswami. And on the request of Vaishnavas, Guranga Mahaprabhu, he defeated Prakashananda Saraswati at Kashi. He had his thousands and thousands of disciples. So they all became followers of Guranga Mahaprabhu and took the path of bhakti. And then the other was connected with Prayag is Sri Prayaga Bhata Valla Bhaika Nishtha Sevanam Nila Sela Bhata Data Raga Marga Radhanam Sri Gada Dharadhi Sri Gada Dharadhin Sri Gada Dhararpitadhikari Mantra Madhuram Premadhama Devam Evanomi Gaura Sundaram. So in this verse is talking about in Prayag, again there is Vallabha Bhat, the great preacher of the Pusti Marg. They worship baby Krishna. So he served Guranga Mahaprabhu, and Guranga Mahaprabhu was very pleased with his service mood. And he allowed entrance into higher Krishna conscious mood of practice. And Vallabha Bharat, he got the mantras of worshipping from Gadadhar Pandit. In that sense, he accepted Gadadhar Pandit as his spiritual master. So that was about the Prayag. Nitai Gaura Haribol, thank you very much.
No, thank you for sharing that. Very, very nice to hear about the holy places. And
yes.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Leela related with Gaura Leela as well.
Yeah.
And that was now on this chapter we heard about the pastimes of Balarama in these holy places. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Anything else like to share? Or any questions? Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So tomorrow is the Disciplines Day, I think, of Ishwarapuri. So we'll talk about Ishwarapuri. And then Monday, we're back on to Srimad Bhagavatam again. And I think Tuesday is Shivratri. So we will focus in on this incredible personality. So Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you.